Now, live at 4, moving forward.
Good afternoon and welcome to Live at 4. The Dane County District Attorney's Office is part of an investigation into a crash in Cottage Grove that killed a local mother.
Police released more information on the crash earlier today. Around 6:30 last night, a car hit 3 people and a dog on Landmark Drive and Michelle Lane. Everyone was taken to the hospital where one of the victims died. Police say the driver was speeding, but that they are fully investigating the crash. The DA is helping the Cottage Grove Police Department look into the driver's motives and actions. The department is encouraging anyone with information to contact them at 608-839-4652.
We're also learning more about the victim. The Cottage Grove Chamber of Commerce released a statement confirming the person who died was Dr. Cammie Hansen of New Lisbon. She worked at Heartland Family Chiropractic. The chamber is partnering with the Cottage Grove Community Foundation to help the family pay for expenses, which now include surgery for Hansen's child, one of the other victims. You can find more information on how to help the family at this story on channel3000.com. A vigil for her is being held later tonight at 7.
Well, let's get a look at your first sworn forecast now. Meteorologist Jacob Montesano out on the weather patio. A little bit cooler today, Jacob.
Yeah, overall conditions a lot calmer, both in the temperature department. We're not seeing the 80s we saw yesterday, much closer to normal. And obviously, we are not seeing any rain. And we really didn't see a lot of rain until overnight. But right now, very sunny skies, temperatures in the lower 60s. Winds have also calmed down a little bit. So overall, it feels very nice out here. But even so, we are about 20 degrees colder than this time yesterday. Pretty much that's the case for the entire area. Now, as we take a look at those current wind speeds, like I mentioned, they are a lot calmer, just a few areas up near 15 miles per hour, but not a big deal overall. For the evening, we're going to continue to see clear skies and nice conditions. We'll see temperatures dropping into the 50s, and then we're going to continue to see clear skies for the overnight hours, which will allow some pretty chilly temperatures as lows could drop into the middle and upper 30s for parts of the area, maybe even close to below freezing for northern counties. Now, for your Wednesday, we're going to start out dry with temperatures similar to today, but we do have a chance of rain later in the day. Better chance of rain will come overnight into Thursday, so I'll take you through the forecast on that coming up a little bit later.
Thank you, Jacob. The former Madison clerk who failed to count 193 absentee ballots in the November election did not break any laws, but did violate multiple policies. That's according to the City of Madison investigation released today.
Maribeth Wetzel-Bale resigned as clerk earlier this month. Our Ellie LaLiberte has been following this story since December and joins us now with a breakdown of the city's findings. Ellie?
Yeah, this investigation says that 193 absentee ballots from wards 56, 65, and 68 went uncounted in the November election, in part because Maribeth Wetzel-Bale failed to supervise the election and perform her duties as clerk. The investigation shows that she did not provide clear policies and procedures to prevent and address these issues. According to the investigation, 68 ballots were found a week after the election and 125 were found on the first week of December. However, the Wisconsin Elections Commission and Mayor's office were not notified of the issue until December 18th. Although the missing votes weren't enough to sway the outcome of any race, political analyst Brandon Schultz says it can hurt voter confidence in the election process.
When that does happen, you have to address it. You have to make sure people get answers. You can't just say, oh, it was a problem, we took care of it. No, you have to go to the great lengths to make sure that you've looked into the reasons why, how it happened, and then most importantly, how you've corrected it, what you're going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again in the next election.
The investigation found no other clerk office employees violated policy. The City of Madison declined to comment on the investigation, and I have not heard back yet from the county clerk's office.
So which questions did this investigation not answer?
Yeah, so there was a big one, which was how these bags went missing. That's been a big part of the Wisconsin Elections Commission investigation. However, we do know that issues with some of the procedures did make this situation worse, but still don't really know exactly how those bags weren't seen.
And speaking of that WEC investigation, what has that looked like so far?
Yeah, well, the WEC voted unanimously back in January to investigate this issue. As of right now, they say they've deposed or they've questioned Maribeth Wetzel-Bale, and they still have more questions. So they're going back to city and county staff to continue asking those questions.
And the report also found a lot of inconsistencies from what the clerk said says has happened versus other city staff. So what stands out the most there?
Yeah, so that's a big issue with this investigation. One of the big things found is that communication was an issue. One example that really stood out to me was that Witzel-Bale said she didn't know there were uncounted ballots until December 10th, but staff say November 12th. So we're seeing some inconsistencies in this investigation. That's not the only one. I'll have a full breakdown tonight at 6, looking deeper into that.
We look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, taking a live look at Capitol Hill, where House Republicans are facing the difficult task of slashing $1.5 trillion to help offset the cost of President Trump's tax cuts. The cuts would likely include hundreds of billions in Medicaid spending. House leadership denies that Medicaid, which cares for more than 70 million people, will be gutted.
We are going to preserve the programs. We're not gutting Medicaid. We're going to reduce fraud, waste, and abuse, which every single American should be applauding.
But it's not clear how Republicans plan to reach the level of spending cuts laid out in the budget resolution Congress passed earlier this month without making drastic cuts to the program. The resolution directs the committee that oversees Medicare and Medicaid to find at least $880 billion in savings over 10 years.
And the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office says achieving those savings would not be possible without cuts to Medicaid. Now state officials are weighing in on how the cuts would affect you. 1 in every 5 Wisconsinites relies on Medicaid, and 2 in every 5 Wisconsin kids rely on it. A new report from the Wisconsin Department of Health Services shows the state could lose nearly $17 billion in federal funding if a per-person funding cap for Medicaid is implemented. With that loss, the state would have to fill the gaps by covering fewer services, cutting provider rates, and changing who's eligible for Medicaid. The cuts could also put Wisconsinites on the hook to maintain Medicaid and potentially cost the state up to $93 million.
The woman accused of killing her mother in the village of Blue Mounds earlier this month is now in jail. Online jail records show Sierra Schoonover was booked into the Dane County Jail just before 9 last night. She's facing charges of first-degree intentional homicide stemming from the death of her mother, Heather Schoonover. 54-year-old Heather Schoonover was found dead on April 14th at a home on Smoky Mountain Trail. Her 31-year-old daughter was identified as a person of interest and later taken into custody after she crashed on State Highway 78 near Blue Rock Road. She has since been in the hospital.
And one person is in jail after a rollover crash and fight yesterday. It happened at about 11 in the morning at Cottage Grove Road near Sprecher Road. Madison police say several callers reported a man and a woman that ran from the car and that the two were physically fighting. Officers found both of them. After investigating, police found the driver was speeding when they tried to pass a car. They lost control, crashing into a horse pasture. Police took the driver to the hospital before taking them to jail.
If you missed Drug Take Back Day, it's not too late to get rid of your old medications. Old medications can not only lose their efficacy, but also cause side effects. Doctors say saving medications and using them could also create antibiotic resistance, especially if you take the medicine for something that doesn't require antibiotic treatment. There are several ways for you to get rid of medicines, but not all medications should be flushed down the toilet.
You know, people think, oh, I should always just flush them down the toilet. Remember that certain medications then get into our drinking water or can actually, be a water pollutant in the sense of that, fish can get into them and other aquatic life, and it can actually change things.
To find out if you can flush your old medicine, look up the FDA flush list. If you can't dispose of them that way, you can always use the Madison Med Drop program. More information on locations and how to use the program is available at safercommunity.net.
Well, next on Live at 4, Canada's Liberal Party wins the country's federal election.
What the Prime Minister had to say about his country's relationship with the U.S. going forward. At least 4 people are dead after a bus crashed through a building Monday afternoon. The crash happened during an after-school program in a small city outside Springfield, Illinois. Officers responded to the scene at about 3:20. They say the victims' ages ranged between just 4 to 18 years old. The 44-year-old driver, who did not get hurt, went to the hospital for evaluation. Police say she is not currently in custody, but toxicology reports are pending. Officials do not believe the crash was targeted.
And 3 former Memphis police officers are facing an out-of-town jury this week in their state trial for the beating death of Tyree Nichols in 2023. Nichols' beating was caught on police video and led to national arrests. Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, and Justin Smith are on trial for second-degree murder and other charges. 2 other officers, Desmond Mills Jr. and Emmett Martin, were charged but will not stand trial. Their lawyers say they will change their not guilty pleas in court. Today, Mills Jr. testified as the state's second witness. This comes after last year's federal case in which Martin and Mills Jr. also took deals. A jury convicted the other 3 officers on charges related to Nichols' death. The sentencing for those charges is expected after the state trial.
The United States trade deficit is at a record high of $162 billion. The Census Bureau says the deficit rose $14 billion last month. Analysts say that's due to businesses stockpiling products as more tariffs from the Trump administration are looming.
And Amazon is backing off a proposal to display the added cost of tariffs next to certain products. The White House took aim at Amazon this morning over reports that the company would soon display how much of an item's cost is derived from tariffs next to its total listed price. President Trump called Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, and the White House press secretary said the idea was a, quote, hostile and political act this morning. Shortly after, an Amazon spokesperson released a statement saying the move was never a consideration for the main Amazon site.
Canada's Liberal Party has won the country's federal election. Prime Minister Mark Carney's party's victory is seen, at least in part, as the product of President Trump's annexation threats and trade war. In his victory speech, Carney stressed the importance of unity in the face of Washington's threats and said the mutually beneficial system the 2 countries have shared since World War II is now over.
Every scientist working on the next authoritative look at how climate change is affecting the U.S. is fired. The Trump administration dismissed all scientists and authors and can now skip the congressionally mandated report altogether. The last assessment came out in 2023. It found climate change is already transforming every region of the U.S. with more frequent, intense weather events and other costly and harmful effects. Congress has mandated the reports come out every 4 years. The next was supposed to be due by 2027.
Well, cool and comfortable today, and some showers could be on the way. Let's get a check of your first warn forecast with Jacob. Jacob?
Thanks, Brady. Here's a look at the 3 things you need to know. Those showers are expected to return Wednesday evening, continuing into Thursday morning. And then we're going to be mild over the weekend with warm temperatures by the middle of next week, where highs could get into the middle 70s. Now, one thing that was kind of lost yesterday with all the possible severe weather is it was our first 80-degree day of the year. We averaged it around April 27th. Yesterday was April 28th, so we were 1 day late. Last year, it occurred on April 14th. It's been as early as March 15th. And I do want to point out that last year actually had the latest 80-degree day all the way to March 29th. We saw 80 degrees. Now, looking at the forecast, we are going to see clear skies overnight, which will allow some cool temperatures, but overall, it won't be too cool. And then as we get towards Wednesday, we'll start out clear. We're going to see those clouds develop in the afternoon and evening, with some showers possible during the evening hours. But most of the day, at least before sunset, should be fairly dry. But as we get closer to around 9 p.m. to midnight, we'll see more consistent rain move into the area, and this is going to continue into the early morning hours. Thursday could see some heavy rain at times, but we're not expecting severe weather. Still could see a few thunderstorms, but the severe weather risk is pretty much zero with this round of precipitation. Heaviest rain will be for Thursday morning, but we still could see some of those showers and maybe even a few isolated thunderstorms for Thursday afternoon. But once we get closer to Thursday evening, a lot of that rain will be out of the area. And once it does clear out of the area, that'll be just about it for rainfall. We're going to be seeing very dry conditions by the time we get to the weekend, and that's going to continue into next week. So really, outside that rain, not only will we be dry, but we also are going to be seeing very nice temperatures. Here's a full look at the 7 to 10 day forecast. Middle 60s by Saturday, 70s Sunday, and then middle 70s for the middle of next week. So we may even be seeing those 80s return, and those middle 70s, they're going to come on kind of a consistent basis. So it's going to be a little, summer-like for those of you that, have been wanting to see that summer-like temperature. It's going to be very good. Just got to get past this chance of rain, and it's going to be several days in a row of sunshine and nice weather.
So I know there's a common question that was kind of floating around Madison in the area today. What happened with yesterday's storms, Jacob?
So we have been talking about the possibility of that cap. If it, eroded, we could have seen an explosion of thunderstorms. And some models were projecting that as late as around, 5 to 6 p.m. So we still, weren't sure if that cap was going to erode, but it just never did. We never saw that cold air force the warm air up. And by the time, the cap did erode, it was, past sunset. A lot of that energy kind of fizzled out. And that line of storms that moved through overnight, do want to point out that that line did produce some pretty strong storms in southern Minnesota. So we were fortunate here. Obviously, if the worst thing that happened was we got the forecast a little bit wrong, that's a win, I'd say. But unfortunately, other areas did not see the same fortunate situation that we had.
Yeah, you could certainly feel we had a lot of the ingredients during the day. It felt like there was something brewing.
Yeah, I mean, when I looked at the temperatures during our 9 o'clock show, I was like, it's still 79, and it was after sunset. That's very warm for this time of the year at that time. So the energy was there. It's just we never really got that cold air to force the warm air up and create those thunderstorms.
Probably very thankful for that too.
Yeah. Thank you, Jacob. Well, coming up on Live at 4, President Trump hits his 100-day mark for his second term in office.
How Americans are feeling about the job he's done so far.
100 days since President Donald Trump took office again.
And during the campaign, he ran on lowering prices for everyday Americans. Now polling shows his approval slipping, including when it comes to the economy. Here to break down the numbers is Marquette Law School professor, Law School poll director, Charles Franken. Charles, always a pleasure.
Good to be here.
Yeah, so among the 6 new polls, the president has an approval rating of about 41%. So how does that compare to where he started and maybe some other factors?
It's a significant drop from the first week or two that he was in office, where his polling average approval was about 49 or so, though some polls had him a little over 50. In these last 6 polls, all done last week or over the weekend, he ranges from 39% as the low to 44% as the high. So there's still a little bit of a range, but that's still pretty low, and it's putting him down in the low 40s, which is where Joe Biden was much of his presidency.
So what would you say are his best topics right now when it comes to the polling?
Clearly the best thing is handling the border. That's the border security question is where he still gets pretty substantial approval ratings, over 50%. But on immigration, he's been falling from in the mid-50s into the mid-40s now. And on the economy and inflation, he's way down into the 30s in some of the polling. Also, worries about tariffs is high.
The overall dip in his approval, do you think or predict that that will change the way his administration does things, or do we expect it to ebb and flow, I guess?
I think in his first term, we saw him not terribly concerned with movement in the polls, but what we've seen in these 100 days is he's very responsive to movement in the stock market and the value of the dollar. And I think those are things where he can pressure universities to change policies. He can pressure law firms to do things, and the Congress is largely willing to go along with him on things. But what he can't do is really dictate what the stock market does, what China does, and I think those pressures will grow over the next 100 days in ways that were beginning to be apparent in this first 100, but are likely to become more apparent. Does he decide to pull back on the tariff issue? And if so, how does the public respond to that?
And how do, stockholders and, corporations respond to that? Do you think they have a little bit more power now to pressure him to back down?
I think there's real pressure. We're seeing stories just today about shortages of Christmas toys, for example. Turns out something over 80% of Christmas toys come from China. So if we have empty shelves come December, I think that will not look good for the administration.
Do you predict the Democrats, as they try to, I guess, get their message going in this second term, will they seize on any of this?
Yeah, I'm sure they will seize, especially on the economic worries, but they're critical of some of the deportations in particular details. Like I say, border security is pretty strong, but deportation's not so strong. I think the problem for Democrats is they have an image problem of their own and are seen more negatively than Republicans in the Congress now, and that's a big problem for them.
Well, yeah, and I have to wonder, too, Will this be enough? Like any type of poll that comes out, does that persuade voters one way or the other?
Well, I think there's certainly a cascade of bad news, and the lowering of support across 6 or 8 different issue areas is all a sort of indication that people are not real pleased with what the president's doing. The one thing is that still, when we ask people, do they have confidence in him, that he does better on that confidence measure than he does on approval on specific issues. So there is still a reservoir of about 50% that say they're confident in his ability to handle the economy, even though that's only 39% job approval on the economy. So there's a bit of a split on that one.
Do we have any other polls to look forward to for your next visit?
Well, we do. We'll be in the field starting next Monday with a new national poll, and we'll be here to talk about it around May 22nd or so.
We'll see you then. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
All right, and coming up on Live at 4, why a 17-year-old in Adams County is facing felony charges.
Plus, muskies are making their way up the Wingra Dam. Our Merrill Hubbard shows us the spectacle they're generating when Live at 4 returns.
You're watching News 3 Now, Live at 4.
Oh, wow, look at that. The sun, it didn't feel very warm, but it sure is a warm picture right now. After we had some light showers yesterday, the weather words for this afternoon, more showers soon.
Let's get a look at our first warn forecast. Jacob is out on the patio soaking up that sunshine. Hey, Jacob.
Yeah, Brady, it is very nice out here. Temperatures right in the lower 60s, not really a cloud in the sky, and we haven't seen much in the form of rain today. Now, let's look at the current conditions across the area. Again, lower 60s for most, few areas in the upper 50s, but the winds have calmed down a lot and it is very sunny. Now, despite that, we are actually significantly colder than at this time yesterday, about 20 degrees colder for much of the area. This time yesterday, we were in the lower 80s for the first time this year, I should point out. But like I mentioned, the winds have calmed down, so it does not feel cool at all. Only up to around 15 miles per hour for some locations, but for the most part, a lot of the area under 10 miles per hour. For the evening, it's going to continue to be very clear and very comfortable. Might get a little bit chilly in the later portion of the evening. And because of the clear skies that we're going to continue to see overnight, it may be a chilly morning tomorrow with lows dropping into the middle and upper 30s, but high temperatures for the afternoon will be similar to what we're seeing right now. We'll have highs in the lower 60s, maybe some upper 50s with clear skies early and clouds developing throughout the day. It will be a lot cooler as you get closer to Lake Michigan, as there will be a little bit of a lake breeze keeping everything cool. Now, I'll talk more in detail about the rain chances later tomorrow, but that's also going to continue for Thursday. I'll have the full forecast, though, coming up a little bit later.
Thank you, Jacob. The Dane County District Attorney's Office is part of an investigation into a crash in Cottage Grove that killed a local mother.
Police released more information on the incident earlier today. Around 6:30 last night, a car hit 3 people and a dog on Landmark Drive and Michelle Lane. Everyone was taken to the hospital where one of the victims died. Police say the driver was speeding, but they are fully investigating the crash. The DA is helping the Cottage Grove Police Department look into the driver's motives and actions. The department is encouraging anyone with information to contact them at 608-839-4652.
We're also learning more about the victim. The Cottage Grove Chamber of Commerce released a statement confirming the person who died was Dr. Cammie Hansen of New Lisbon. She worked at Heartland Family Chiropractic. The chamber is partnering with the Cottage Grove Community Foundation to help the family pay for expenses, which now include surgery for Hansen's child, one of the other victims. You can find more information on how to help the family at this story on channel3000.com. A vigil for her is being held later tonight at 7.
And the family of the man who died at the Waupun Correctional Institution last year is seeking damages. It comes one day after former Waupun Warden Randall Hepp received a $500 fine for his role in his death and that of another inmate. Donald Mayer died last February while in prison. The Dodge County Sheriff ruled his death a homicide by dehydration and malnutrition. His was one of 2 deaths that led to charges against Hepp and several others who worked at Waupun. Hepp is listed as one of the defendants in the civil case.
A teenager is out of jail on a $2,000 cash bond after the Adams County Sheriff's Department found him with multiple fully automatic guns, parts, and accessories. The Sheriff's Office conducted a search warrant on April 24th on State Highway 13 in the town of Adams. It led to the discovery of gun parts used to convert semi-automatic guns into fully automatic guns, as well as 3D printed handguns with no serial numbers and more. The 17-year-old suspect, Aiden Seeley-Siegert, is charged with 12 felonies. He's due in court on May 20th.
As President Trump marks his 100th day in the White House, many U.S. households are worrying about their wallets. According to the latest Conference Board survey, consumer confidence fell nearly 8 points this month. That brought it down to the lowest it's been since May 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. The survey also shows Americans' outlook on the U.S. economy dropped to a level not seen in 13 years, and the percentage of people expecting a recession increased to a 2-year high.
To Wall Street now, the Dow is up 300 points, the Nasdaq is up 95, and the S&P 500 is up 32.
The city of Fitchburg earlier this month passed a new fee that will impact all residents with cars.
News 3 Now's Jalen Banks joins us now with more on Fitchburg's new wheel tax.
This month, the city of Fitchburg's Common Council voted to approve a vehicle registration fee. I had the chance to catch up with one Fitchburg resident on how this may impact them and others. In a 5-4 vote, Fitchburg's Common Council passed the vehicle registration fee, or wheel tax. This fee would require all registered vehicles in the city to pay an additional $40 to state renewal and Dane County registration fees. I had the chance to speak with Caitlin, a Fitchburg resident of 30 years, on how she feels about the new fee.
Good experience, especially in the hard times right now. A lot of people getting laid off. It's, I don't know, for working class, I guess, or people who are just making a do, it's not working out for us.
The city of Fitchburg says the fee is projected to make $1 million in revenue. For now, reporting in Fitchburg, Jalen Banks, News 3 Now.
All right, Jalen, thank you. Well, it's not just spring fever, it's fish fling season, Brady.
Oh, look out, everyone. Muskies are jumping dams and jumping into love. Meryl Hubbard reports from Wingra Lake to see who's showing up to see the muskie madness.
Here at the Wingra Dam, the muskie fish migration is one where some of the fish have to take a leap. From Lake Monona to Lake Wingra, there's just one ledge to clear.
It's something they do every year. It's a really cool phenomenon.
Patrick Hasberg, the owner of DNS Bait Tackle and Fly Shop, says seeing fish fly is something that can draw in quite the crowd. But this leap of faith is just one step of their journey. Part of being a river species means swimming upstream to spawn. So for the muskies, the Wingra Dam is just one obstacle standing in the way between them and some muskie business.
You can actually see muskies swimming up any little tributary that flows into Lake Monona, so Starkweather Creek, the Yahara River. They swim up all those looking for love, I guess.
The DNR says that the Madison chain of lakes does not have suitable habitat for natural reproduction to be successful. Patrick says all of the muskies in Lake Monona are stocked by local muskie fish organizations. Fishermen tell me we're nearing the end of the muskie migration season, but there's still a chance to see them jump. Reporting in Madison, Meryl Hubbard, News 3 Now.
Exciting. Well, just a reminder, no fishing is allowed in Wingra Creek from the observation deck downstream to the Arboretum Drive Bridge.
So if you need something to do, just go watch the muskie jump.
Maybe that's how we find love, Brady. We just got to go jumping in some rivers.
Go jumping in some rivers. Some people would like to see us do that, I'm sure. All right, coming up on Live at 4, could food dyes be going down the drain?
And why the FDA wants a new clinical trial for a COVID vaccine. Dr. Jeff Podoff is here to discuss how these health headlines affect you.
On the chopping block.
Plus, the FDA wants Novavax to do a new clinical trial on its COVID-19 vaccine before new shots are available. Dr. Jeff Podoff joins us for our weekly health headlines. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey guys, how are you? Good. Doing well. How are you?
I'm good.
Well, let's start with the RFK campaign promise. Like what, 8 food dyes? Are they harmful, and how harmful can they be?
Yeah, I think these 8 food dyes, they all have a petroleum base. And on the pro side, when you look at benefits of something in our food, this is where these dyes tend to lose out. There's absolutely no nutritional value. There's no health benefits. So there's not a lot of upside. Now on the downside, it's not super strong. If you give these dyes to, say, rats at very high concentrations, they might be able to cause cancer. Probably not at the concentrations that they're in food. The other thing that maybe has more evidence behind it is kids who are maybe already susceptible to hyperactivity. So say kids who maybe have underlying ADHD, ingesting these food dyes can make them even a little bit more hyper. So not a lot of good reasons to keep them around. The reasons to get rid of them, maybe they're there. So there are other countries that have done this. Some in European France have banned these petroleum-based dyes.
And tell me, how realistic, I mean, they're in everything. How realistic is it to, take them out? And what will that look like? Are my Twizzlers going to taste any different? Or
It's a good question. I mean, these things are in thousands of products. I don't know about taste. They might not taste different, but they might not look so great. Like your Skittles might not be so bright and vibrant. That yellow M&M maybe won't be quite so yellow. That would be something that we'd have to get used to. They might not look as appealing as they do right now.
Didn't Kraft, like several years ago, kind of tweak its recipe to use like turmeric to make the yellow color versus a...
Yeah, other manufacturers have done this where they've kind of like auto-selected to get away from these things. And clearly they're selling these products in countries that don't allow for these dyes. So it's possible to do it, but they just probably don't look quite as appealing to our kids as they're walking by.
Yeah. Well, on the vaccine front, the FDA wants Novavax to do a new clinical trial before the new round of shots is approved. I read that the company says it believes that its vaccine is approvable, but it's worried about some delays. So what's at stake here?
Yeah, I think what Novavax is trying to do is they're trying to get their vaccine to market like Pfizer and Moderna has theirs. And it works a little bit different. It's a protein-based. I think where the hang-up is typically when vaccines, say for influenza or COVID, get approved, they're approved on whether the vaccine is safe and effective. But then every year, like for flu, there's an update to like what we're covering. What the FDA may be asking is like, well, we want you to prove that the update's effective. That can get tricky because that means at the start of flu season, you'd have to put this study together, test thousands of people, prove that it's effective, then get it out to the masses. It might make it difficult to actually make it available. So I think there'll be a little bit more back and forth between the FDA and Novavax on how exactly this is going to work.
And how could this affect, if this will affect any other type of vaccines on the market?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say. I mean, with these vaccines that get these annual updates, it would be challenging for any vaccine maker to prove that the vaccine works because they couldn't really prove it until the respiratory season starts. The other thing is these are not static things. As we saw with COVID, the mutations happen. Same with flu. Your study that completed last week may not be all that applicable if something just mutated and now it's a little bit different. So I think a lot of manufacturers are really leaning on like our vaccine is safe, it's effective. Tweaking these little things that pick which targets we're looking at as far as the strains of viruses probably don't meaningfully impact the safety or effectiveness of the vaccine.
So we'll have to wait and see how this turns out.
More to come.
All right, Dr. Potoff, always good to see you. Thanks for being on with us. And coming up, we have Jacob's first warn forecast.
And later, a superstar back on the road. Everything we know about the Cowboy Carter Tour.
Woo! We are taking a live look at Holland, Michigan. Armand, have you been there before?
I've been there many times. I have family and cousins there. Beautiful tulip festival every year.
I've heard. Yeah, it was the subject of a recent Nicole Kidman movie, so I'd like to go visit. It looks very idyllic. 57 degrees, mostly cloudy there. And let's get a look at our first warn forecast. Jacob joins us now. Jacob?
Yeah, overall, we're going to see a lot of very nice days going forward, but we still have a few chances of rainfall, specifically Wednesday into Thursday, but will be mild and dry over the weekend and then warm for the middle of next week. Now, let's take a look at the rainfall first. We're going to see clear skies for the rest of the night and into tomorrow, but clouds are going to develop during the afternoon and evening, which will lead to a small chance of some rain Wednesday evening. However, a lot of the area will stay dry before sunset. But after sunset, we'll see more consistent showers and a few thunderstorms move into the area. Definitely could see some pockets of heavier rainfall, and although we could see some thunderstorms, we are not expecting any severe weather. Now, the heaviest rain does look to occur for Thursday morning, being a little bit more broken up for the afternoon, but we're still expecting a few showers and maybe even some isolated storms as well. But once we get closer to the evening hours, a lot of that rain will clear out of the area, and then after that rain does clear out, we're pretty much done with rain, at least for the foreseeable future. Maybe some at the end of the 10-day forecast, but for Friday into the weekend and early next week, there is very low chances of rainfall. And as you'll see in a moment, the temperatures will be very nice for that time frame. Now, looking at the temperatures for tomorrow, we'll have highs in the middle to lower 60s. Plenty of cloud cover by the afternoon, a little bit cooler as you get closer to Lake Michigan. And for Thursday, despite the rainfall, temperatures aren't going to be too bad, although it definitely may feel a bit cooler cooler once with the clouds and the rainfall, highs only around 60. Now, fast forwarding towards the weekend, Friday will have a similar forecast to Saturday, but overall the weekend is going to be very, very nice. Partly sunny and seasonable for Saturday. How about mostly sunny skies and even warmer temperatures for your Sunday? Both days we're going to see very little wind as well. If anything, it might feel a little bit too warm rather than too cold. So definitely get out and enjoy the weather. But if you can't over the weekend, next week is not looking too bad either. We're going to see temperatures warming up even further. Highs will be in the middle to upper 70s, specifically Monday through Wednesday. May drop a little bit towards the end of next week, where we are going to be seeing those temperatures possibly get down to the lower 70s, but overall we are still going to see very summer-like temperatures going forward, starting Sunday and continuing for next week. So again, we have that rainfall expected, especially for tomorrow night into Thursday. Rain should be pretty widespread. Everyone is expected to see the rain at some point, and although we could see a few thunderstorms, we're not expecting the severe weather. Friday, some light rain, but otherwise pretty nice, and then getting better throughout the weekend and even better for a lot of next week.
Beehive, Beyonce's Cowboy Carter and the Rodeo Chitlin Circuit tour has officially begun. We're dancing. You can't see us, but we are.
Yee! Last night, Beyonce kicked off her 32 city concert supporting her Grammy-winning album of the year, Cowboy Carter, in L.A. last night. Tens of thousands packed SoFi Stadium, decked in cowboy hats, boots, and denim, and she took the twang of her latest album, riding a mechanical bull, and sang in many show-stopping outfits. Among the fans were celebrities like Tyler Perry, Gayle King, and Oprah were all there to support Queen Bee, as Brady will be as well.
I know. In Chicago, I'm going. I have my fringe jacket and my cowboy boots ready, and I'm just ready to vibe there.
You're ready to hold them.
I am ready to hold them. You're not ready. You're not ready for me yet.
No, not at all.
You should wear it on air.
I should. I would love to, actually. Get a cowboy hat that it can fit over this hair. We'd be set.
Jacob, you can do the
I'm sure you could find a hat up there that could fit up there.
I don't know. If anyone has any ideas, let me know. But I'm excited. I'm also excited about these cooler, comfortable, warmer temperatures coming.
Yeah, it's going to be like the first stretch, at least next week, where we're going to consistently feel kind of like summer. Definitely going to be spring-like for the rest of this week. Some rain for Thursday, but temperature is not going to be too cool. And then once we get to the weekend, I mean, it's going to be gorgeous. And if you like the warmer temperatures, it'll be even better for the middle of next week. And I always say, if you like the warmer temperatures, because I'll stick to the Saturday forecast. That's my ideal weather. When you get to the 70s and sunshine, it gets a little too warm, but I know I'm not too upset by that. Definitely very nice overall, though.
We'll be right back.
But send us your plant questions. Lisa Briggs will join us to answer them. And later on News 3 Now at 5, the Milwaukee County Chief Judge speaks for the first time since the arrest of Judge Hannah Dugan. Well, thanks so much for watching Live at 4. We hope to see you right back here tomorrow. News 3 Now at 5 starts right now.